welcome everybody to Bar Talk, the spirits and beverage podcast at reliefandresource.com. .com? We're not .com. We're at Relief and Resource, which is a .com and also a real place in Fenton, Michigan. It's really cold in the bar/studio today, so I'm a little frozen. I'm John Foley, the owner and host of your podcast, joined as always by Mark Miller.
Hello.
And Courtney Booms. And we are doing part one of the 2021 Whiskey Roundup. So touching on some of the products that came across the bar this year, or that we really kind of focused on this year, or just acquired for our back bar this year that we think are excellent. This is a big episode. The follow-up will be a big episode, so we chopped it into the two big categories that represent most of what we tasted new this year, which would be today's Scotch, and next episode will be bourbon and rye. So you kind of can't really do these episodes without chopping them up into those two categories.
It'd be a 2-hour long.
One side.
Yeah, it'd be a lot.
Drunken menagerie of whiskey
and we have a whiskey call menagerie today.
We
do.
So,
which is good.
Look at that segue.
So if you're tuning in off our social media or otherwise, and you don't know that we're produced by iLogic Media, please check out their stuff. Lots of good content. This is a big time of the year for sports, and they do a lot of sports content. So if you have that interest or want to see what else they do, please look into it. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yes.
You're good. You're ready.
A beautiful intro. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Really, yeah. I'm cold, but I'm ready.
15 episodes, and you nail every single intro. We never had to restart.
I feel like it's really, it's like the most important thing I've got to do.
Yeah.
If I screw up the intro,
mark,
it'll be a little cloud hanging over me if you had to do the intro twice. Like you saw the video where the guy from, I think it was ABC 12, interviewed me about like the speaking. He's doing like a local business thing, and
very chipper dude.
He's extremely chipper. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and we got in and we did this whole like intro where we're like outside and we're walking through the Pringles door, and I've got this little script I'm supposed to hit, and he's got me mic'd up, and then we walk through and we walk in behind the bar, cameras on us the whole time. When we're talking behind the bar, we're starting to like, really get into the meat and potatoes of it, and it's like all of a sudden he's like, shit, my mic's not on. I'm like, that's cool because now I
can a professional.
Do it all over again. And yeah, it's a mistake. But you can see, I think the most unprofessional thing about the whole thing is my face in the actual thing that got on TV because I'm over it. It's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, it's great. It's a speakeasy door. It's awesome. Let's walk in. And I was trying really hard to be nice, but I was also really mad that I had to say all of it all over again because I felt like I was really my first takes are my good ones.
Yeah.
After that, it gets really bad.
You can't think about it too much.
You're much enjoying
That's right. A fly by the seat of my pants intro guy. All right, so let's get into this because we've got a lot of malts here. We've got mostly single malt with the exception of a couple of our Compass Box friends. So I don't really know how to attack this. If it's distillery groups, maybe because we've got a couple bunched in here, or just want to do the Highlands. Let's start with an oddball, I guess. Like something that we didn't expect because we know representing Ardbeg and Balvenie and William Grant that we're going to taste. Balvenie is William Grant, but we're going to taste a lot of great product we know from them because we know these places based on their reputation. But one of the items that we didn't really expect to try this year at all and didn't expect to like nearly as much is this little guy, the Devaron aged 12-year single malt, Highlands single malt, not Speyside.
Correct.
We tasted this when our, it's owned by the Bacardi Group, so one of our reps came in and was ostensibly talking about some other things, but happened to bring this and another whiskey that we're going to taste in a little bit. But and you and I tasted it first.
Yeah.
Courtney, I think you're either working that night or you were working the next day and work here. Or she came in. She might have come in after you left. Actually, it was a weird day. But we were excited to share this with you. And then we put it on the shelf, and it's been doing pretty well. We haven't had it that long.
No. Only like a couple weeks probably.
Yeah. So what do you like about the Devaron? Aside from its really pretty sea glass bottle.
Yeah, it's a very sexy bottle.
It is.
To me, I like it because, generally Highlands are known for being pretty mild, maybe not as much as mild as like Speyside, but pretty mild, pretty accessible. The Devaron though has some balls to it. I will say it's got some kick for sure.
Cereal grain kind of giving it a ton of body and robustness. Yeah, I love it because it's like it's it's quintessential Highlands with those notes that you were just saying. But it's also just super interesting because you said it's owned by Bacardi, which is it's John Doerr and Sons, I think, is their branch. That's the Scottish branch, you might say, or their whiskey branch.
Yeah, like I mean, Bacardi's a big. It's not like just Bacardi is there. Like they have a whiskey branch, and that's what they're
right.
That's
not
part of the bigger organization. Yeah,
overall umbrella, and that's from the Macduff Distillery, which is one of the more recent opening distilleries. So it was opened in 1962.
Which is pretty late.
Yeah, late coming, but delicious. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of front palate loaded. It's got a lot of like grainy spice. It finishes nice and easy and lean. And that's where that's where the age comes through for me. Is it's like it's still a younger whiskey, but the cost of it's really nice, and it could be a really cool kind of jumping off spot for people who normally drank like Glenfiddich or Glenlivet and want just a new dram, and want to kind of keep spending the same kind of money that they've been spending.
Here's what it says on the back of the bottle. When billows break and har goes in, then haste ye home or some bit warm. Unwind with toasted grain and apples, seaborne spice, calm from the storm.
Interesting. So it is up by the coastal line. It's like
it must be,
the square of Speyside. It's just to the right of that. So if you're looking at a map, it'd be northeast of Speyside, but still on the water.
I suppose so, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to say this to people, then haste ye home or some bit warm. It's just at the end of the night. You don't have to go home. You don't have to haste ye home. But find yourself another warm bit other than ours.
All right, let's do the next one because we got lots of bottles to get through. What do you want to do?
Oh, for sure.
I think these classic malt releases probably should go till the end because they're stronger, and that's maybe just for our sake, but also they're the newest, I think. So there's still a good chance for people to get those. Let's do the blends, I think.
Okay.
Because we always seem to include something from Compass Box in these end of the year.
They're just so badass. Yeah. Like, how do you not include them?
And there's still so many people who don't know about Compass Box.
What? They need to come in and get educated.
They do. Yeah. Do you have anything on the history of Compass Box?
I don't have anything on the history of Compass Box, so you guys might have noticed I didn't pour a dram on myself for the Devaron. I'm working later, so actually saving my drams for those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
fair.
Yeah.
Pours.
So Compass Box is a blending house. They source whiskey from single malt distilleries all over Scotland, and then combine them and put out very unique blended malts. These are a little different. The Menagerie was something we got at the beginning of the year. It was extremely limited bottling. Straight from the back, 42% of it is from Mortlock, which is known as the Beast of Dufftown, a Highlands single malt distillery that creates very, very big-bodied and rich whiskeys. They are known for being kind of some of the richest whiskey that comes from that area, and we're looking to get a 13-year-old Mortlock from them in the next couple of weeks, cask strength, which should be amazing. And then Deanston at 17% and nearly 17 for Highland malt blend, so it's undisclosed where they're actually taking it from. And then Glen Elgin makes up about 18% in a recharred barrel and a refill sherry season. But Glen Elgin has become, for the Highland stuff, a definite touchstone malt for Compass Box. Like they use Glen Elgin a lot. And then Lefroy produces about 5%. So Menagerie is from all over. It's a menagerie of grains and malts from all over Scotland to create a really big, rich
bodied,
premium.
rich. That's the artwork on the front of it. Obviously, it's very telling of the style that they're going for with that whiskey as well.
Yeah,
they should be noted too. The guy behind Compass Box is John Glazier, right?
Glazier,
formerly of Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker, yeah. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And they've used some Johnny Walker, if not specifically Johnny Walker products, it's already blended, but a lot of the distilleries that they enjoy too. So like Cardew, for instance, is one of the main ones that they use.
Yeah.
And I've seen Compass Box draw from on occasion.
One of my favorites, and I think it might actually be the next one, so I'll try to remember to save this comment, but there's a really funny comment about where one of the whiskeys is from.
In this one?
Well, no, in the next one that we're going to do. So you can gain all this information not even by looking at a bottle. Compass Box is extremely transparent, so you can go on the website and click on any one of their whiskeys. It'll give you a really down to the numbers breakdown from where it all was sourced from, how it was aged, how it was blended, how it was put together.
And that whiskey I think it's one of the most elegant uses in a blend of peated whiskey. So it's the Freud, right?
Only 5%, but you can
5.5%.
smell.
but
I can already smell it.
It's just kind of like lingers in the background with a little bit of that smoke, but it's not super aggressive.
It gives
It's
me
really
a
awesome.
Andy's mint candy scent, which is really weird to me. I hope it's not because I'm just drinking coffee. But...
I don't think you're wrong. The body is really silky and smooth.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why the smoke kind of hangs on the finish, because it's a pretty elegant and lean whiskey on the palate.
It reminds me of like the lean and elegance of Japanese whiskey, for instance.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Sweeter. Because you get a lot of honey, or maybe honeysuckle, but it's definitely honey.
What's the difference between honey and honeysuckle?
Honeysuckle is a flower.
Flower, man.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can drink the nectar from it. It tastes like honey, but it's ridiculously floral at the same
Oh,
time.
all right.
So I didn't know if the florality is coming from that or something else. It's amazing. And this is a treat yourself whiskey as well, isn't it?
It's not
Slightly
cheap.
steeper,
No,
yeah.
it's not cheap. Yeah, we were.
Season.
I think we were one of the only bars, if not the only bars, who get it. And we're working off of just over a half a bottle right now. So if you hear this or see it, I would get it now, or around the holidays, because that bottle will dip, I'm sure.
That's something I think this lineup specifically, there's a good kind of, it spans from very affordable to maybe a little bit of a more treat yourself kind of realm.
Sure, which is all
Cost.
relative, right? Because it's Scotch. So Scotch is still more expensive than any other kind of whiskey, except for maybe Japanese right now, at least in our market. But Scotch cheapness is relative.
Yeah.
Bourbon cheapness is far cheaper.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes with aging as well, right? That Devaron is 12 years, and you said that's pretty young. In my head, I'm thinking, but
Drinks
for
young.
a bourbon drinker, that's insane.
No, yeah, it is.
It'd be
And
well aged.
yeah. I mean,
Nice.
you've got bourbons that can't even keep up a 12-year age statement. Like Elijah Craig hasn't put that on their bottle in years.
In a while, yeah.
Well, the Scots, they're very patient people.
Yeah.
Whereas us
They-
Americans are like, woohoo, let's go, drink some bourbon.
Well, next big thing, right? So like it takes a lot of care to put a new single malt mark on
Absolutely.
the market.
Yeah.
And there's not that it doesn't take care to put bourbon on the market, but there's a whole lot of really young bourbon on the market right now. And I think we're still seeing people's palates change and people's palates adjust and ebb and flow with that, because young and super high alcohol kind of is the same driving force behind super sweet pastry stouts.
Sure.
Essentially, like
yeah.
they're super
Triple
strong.
IPAs.
They taste,
Yeah.
So there's a lot
Lots
of
of
that
sugar.
right now, and I think in Scotches, at least in this bar, seen a lot of success. I think because it runs contrary to that,
Yeah.
and there's only so much super hot fucking corn that you can drink
Yeah, because
without
it's
everything tasting like that.
sweet and lean at the same time. But some bourbons, to me, as you guys already know, are like sickeningly sweet. And sometimes I think it's because of that young flavor that they're trying to kind of mask out of there.
And all that barrel,
And all that
Yeah.
barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both of these have a nice refinement to them, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. Should we talk about the artist blend?
Yes.
This is cool.
I'm excited
This
about
is
that.
really cool. Yeah. This, so Artist Blend has been something that Compass Box has used under the Great King Street label to denote a Highland style blend. And it was a product that they would put out almost really for bartenders so that you could use Compass Box in a drink
Cocktail.
and not have it be super expensive. And that was, our cost in the $30 a bottle. So this is Artist Blend Scotch whiskey, single Marion cask, bears the Compass Box label in the shorter bottle. And the way I heard it, as far as Michigan goes, there was one Marion cask's worth of liquid that was on our market, and we tasted it before we committed to it, and then you had to commit to X amount of bottles, and then you would get it, and it would be bottled for you.
Right.
So essentially, the best accounts in the state shared this Marion cask, the way you would bring in a single barrel or a store pick. So we didn't pick it. Compass Box released it to the market and then said, "Hey, who wants
Would
it?"
you like this?
Yeah, what people want to get in on this. We were the only bar offered bottles of the Artist Blend Marion cask. So if you want to drink a dram of it in a bar, you have to come here. We got a good chunk of it. It's been an amazing surprise in terms of how well it's working. Do you want to talk about the Marion cask? Because it's cool and it's or do you know, or should I talk about this one?
Go ahead.
Okay. From what I know, this is an older practice that doesn't always get done now. Like if you buy a single malt, or excuse me, if you buy a blended Scotch, it's blended from variant single malts.
Right.
Blended, bottled, sold. This technique says that you should, put it all into one cask and let it marry together and let it kind of sit together for a while and then release it. So allowing the flavors to integrate while also sitting on the wood. And that's what was done here.
So it almost acts closer to a single cask, like a single barrel release, but with those blends being added prior.
Yeah.
Right. The ferment process is like
Let's
the
hold up
one
the
that's kind of
camera too, so the
diverted.
people can see.
And that little
if they're
label
watching
at
the
top
video.
too, yeah.
Just from Michigan. Married
it's great.
21st of January, 2020.
21st of January, 2020. So married for maybe 6 months
Yeah.
Yeah.
before actually bottled, because we got offered this in November.
But it's a sherry barrel that it's been married in, right?
you want
So
that
you're 6 months of sherry influence?
No, some of the whiskeys in this were done in sherry barrels. Some weren't. Some were just,
Okay, good. That's
spent bourbon.
why did you talk about it? I'm
Yeah.
100% sure.
No, yeah, it wasn't all sherry. And this is one of the ones when I looked at what was in it, it said X amount of percent of whiskey from a distillery near the town of Aberlour.
Which
So
that makes
maybe
sense.
So is maybe just
Aberlour.
Aberlour,
Yeah.
but they're not saying it. There has been releases, I believe, from them that said, distillery in Isla, when a lot of people knew that was Ardbeg that was actually in the whiskey.
I mean, now that you say Aberlour, after tasting it, it
apple.
tastes like Aberlour.
Yeah.
Aberlour.
Aberlour tastes
Well,
of apples to me.
Yeah, and Glen Elgin and some of the other things that they put in their whiskey. But this is automatically
I
just
get.
a richer. This is less floral than the Menagerie for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. A little bit sweeter.
Super good though.
Yep. Doesn't have the wisp of peat that the other one did. I think what I like about this, getting it as essentially a store pick or a portion of a store pick, is that it is nice and complex and really rich, but it has a lot of very accessible flavors. So if you're
Yeah.
new into Scotch, and you might want to try this, because I think it'll be playing on a lot of levels that you find attractive.
Some more of those baking spice notes and citrus notes that
Yeah.
you might enjoy out of bourbon or rye, but still quintessentially grain.
Yep.
Right
So come in and get some.
Get it while it's hot.
And I think it's
Love that.
retailing at like $70 a bottle.
Really?
If you were to go out and find it. I don't know who all got it.
Yeah,
I mean, I know who got it around here, but it's a real nice one.
Price point wise, yeah.
Mhm.
What's up next?
Put it on your knee, don't bounce too hard, just by the fire. Sit there in your rocking chair.
Sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sing it to sleep.
Do you bounce
Sing it
your
right to
whiskey
sleep.
on your knee like a bobbin?
I don't.
Sweet bobbin.
I don't. There's kids' toys all around. Have I attempted anything rash except for sitting
You
still?
an actual child to bounce on your
It would get spilled.
knee. Cool.
All right. So
You
we've
wanna talk about
covered
A good scope.
Compass Box. I think maybe those two at the end, because we just got these
sweet,
two,
Sweet babies.
and they're really, really fun to say.
I'm gonna hold this one up first.
Yeah.
Craigellachie or Craigellachie if you're using an American accent.
Well, Craigellachie.
If
As I like
you
to
are
say.
Mark Miller,
If you're Mark Miller.
it may be slightly already inebriated.
Yeah. Speyside single malt whiskey. We have a 17 and a 23-year-old age statement in front of us.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Couldn't decide which one we liked better, so we put them both on the table,
Yes.
and we're very fond of them.
I'm
We've been
huge
guilty
fan.
of being so in love with Isla that we sometimes forget about Highlands and Speyside malts. And there was an effort this year to get a few more of them on the back bar and to explore a little bit better. And I think, like anything, it's you get the same stuff over and over again. You think all Highland malts are like the 4 or 5 that you typically drink,
All taste the same.
Yeah.
They're also sweet.
until you miss stuff like Craigellachie, Clynelish, and this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got these and we bought them right away. You were with me. It's the same taste. As
I
the
was,
Devaron.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were very impressed by these, I
Mhm.
thought. I mean, let's retaste them because I haven't tried these since we actually.
Mark doesn't work today.
So yeah, I was gonna say
You know,
I
I
had
don't really
my
recall what
pour
the tastes like.
on
so.
Saturday during Jingle Fest, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I loved it.
So this is the Craigellachie 17.
So the distillery sits firm in the heart of Speyside, so right in the center of that triangle that the Speyside kind of forms, with characteristic fruit and grain notes of the Highland, but it's also super robust, and it does have like a nice smoky flavor from the barrel char on the
Yeah.
17 year.
It's not a peat smoke. It's definitely a
No.
barrel smoke. Yeah.
Almost like the way that you'd get an extra char barrel, smell and taste of that.
Sorry to reach across
No,
you.
it's okay. The Craigellachie or Craigellachie, so it's CR, AIG, Craig, if you've got the name of it, but Craig is a rock, so it's the name of a rock, or just Scots Gaelic for rock, I should say. And the distillery itself sits straight on top of that rock in the center of the triangle.
It's a really big rock.
At the confluence of the Fiddick and the Spey rivers. And I love it a lot. I get a ton of pineapple out of it. And I don't know if that's just because I love pineapple and that's the tropical fruit that I taste out of it, but generally get a lot of tropical fruit. Very inviting, and then that smoky robustness at the very end from that extra char in the barrel. It's a 46% ABV. If you want to do that's alcohol by volume, which makes it 92
Yes.
proof.
Yeah, so relatively mild. And I think you're right about that tropical fruit. It just kind of leaps out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fruit sweetness in this to go along with malt sweetness. And I think smoke is right, but it's not peat smoke. And that's the thing that you have to kind of have to differentiate when you're thinking about what you like. And even with peated whiskey and non-peated whiskey, there's smoke, there's like sea smoke, there's salt, there's brine, there's that illusion of iodine that some people get char, and then like actual like barrel char smoke, which is not like earthy peat smoke.
Yeah. About this whiskey that made me super excited about it when you got it on the back bar is because of the way that they malt and use their malt for their product. So it's not supplied to any other distillery, has a uniquely heavy character, and they use a Steinecker mash tun, which is like an old school tun. It's a lot deeper, and it allows like a lot of the grain product itself to sit shallower, like so up at the top of the mash. And because of that, they almost fine grain their malt, and that gives it so much more cereal malt flavor, they say, because it's the surface area. It'd be the same as like if you're using dilution. It's the opposite, right? So that I find really interesting.
Cool.
Really interesting about that distillery in particular.
That's science.
Yeah.
It is science, and it's working for you.
I've been blinded by it.
Blinded
You're welcome.
Stop.
Hey, I was going to make a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson joke earlier, which I withheld. So
You watched wrestling, didn't you?
no. But The
Yeah.
Rock's in everything now.
I can see you watching
in
wrestling.
all of the films now. Yeah.
Like back in the day,
No.
out back in the middle of Byron,
No.
wearing like some purple and
No.
yellow like underwear thing, like leaping off of your porch.
No, I did just watch what is the name of that Jungle Cruise with The Rock.
Okay, I have not seen that yet.
And Emily
I want
Blunt?
to see it a lot.
Surprisingly pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little feel good movie, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna get right on that. I'm gonna need you to work tonight so I can go home and watch Jungle Cruise.
The other cute little story that the 23-year-old bottle had. So the 23-year-old bottle, I don't know if you guys want a pour or anything like that, but it's going to have a little bit more refinery to it, a little bit more viscous waxiness almost from that malt as well.
Yeah, I went straight to that actually. So
Yeah.
my comments were based on that.
So they have a stillhouse cat that would sit on top of those vats that I was talking about from the first bottle that they used in their malts there. And when the cat got off of the vat, cat gets off the vat.
That's
definitely a
alliteration.
Dr. Seuss thing in it.
Mhm.
That's when they knew that the grain and all that was ready, because probably the air pressure would have been agitating the top of the.
And the cat would be like,
And the
"No."
cat's like, nah, I'm not into this.
How much cat
That's
is in
pretty
this
cute.
whiskey? Is the question.
It's at
Well, it's not-
least 70% cap.
At least 70%.
Yeah.
It's not Old Tom, so maybe 0.
Oh, I won't accept there being no cat in this whiskey.
Yeah, beautiful, lovely Speyside, Craigellachie.
There is,
and get some.
In the 23 compared to the 17, there's a much more present kind of like dark barrel char flavor to it.
Yeah,
For sure.
It's sitting longer in those barrels.
Yeah.
Too.
The other good thing about Craigellachie is that it is also part of that Bacardi portfolio. So you will be able to find it, I think, going forward. There's money behind
Hopefully
it.
so. Yeah. And
There's a 12 too, isn't there? We tasted 12 that we didn't.
a
buy.
13.
We did-
13.
Yeah,
The 13 was really nice.
Because they do odd numbers.
Yeah.
Odd years.
I think she said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We tasted the 13 and really liked it, but we actually skipped right to the 17 and 23 because they were so good.
Yeah.
You should be able to find Craigellachie out there. These aren't cheap. They're
But
two of the
they're
more
good.
expensive ones that we have on the table today, but they're well worth it.
Craigellachie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I flipped a Glenlivet 18 drinker to Craigellachie 17 a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
He was
nice.
pretty into it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you know what you'd like to talk about next?
Probably maybe this guy right here,
Victoria.
unless we want to do these.
Mm.
because these are really sweet.
Well, I think
I
we
was
do
gonna say going
Balvenie
sweet
and
into-
then
Okay, so Balvenie, two labels from Balvenie, both of which, one was an older label that we kind of just rediscovered and put back on the back bar. It's been around for a while, the 15-year single barrel, and then a 21-year-old single barrel. Both from the Balvenie distillery, which is still maybe my favorite Speyside Highlands distillery. The richness and the use of sherry and just how complete they feel on my palate is something I've always really loved.
Yeah. That's also so Dufftown, Scotland. We talked about for a moment earlier. The Balvenie distillery is located in Dufftown. William Grant and Sons owns it, as we said before, I think as well. It was founded in 1892. It's one of the older distilleries there. They produce lots of incredible whiskey, but that 15-year, if you love sherry finish, is just, it's so dark in comparison too. It is hugely sherried. It was finished in exclusively Oloroso, European Oloroso sherry casks for several years. And
wow,
it's another one of those that is bottled straight from the cask. So there's only 800 bottles that are exactly like that one, because by the next cask, they'll have started a new barrel. So it's not quite the same.
yeah, that's definitely sherry heavy on the palate for sure.
Sweet, dried fruits,
You know what makes me want to say?
blackcurrant jamminess.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
We have to buy copyrighted songs because Mark Miller
That
keeps
would be
singing
horrible.
them in this.
No, actually, when you cover a song, you don't legally have to get the artist's approval to do it.
Is that only if the recording is playing or something?
Yeah, like if you're using a
So
recording,
we can
on-
sing whatever we
we
want.
can sing whatever we want because
Okay.
we're probably
But then-
singing it off key anyhow.
But
so.
if that
Fair.
goes, if we start monetizing that, then we have to pay royalties.
If it was
if
like
we're playing the song, yeah.
in the,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But we can just spit it out of our mouths.
I'm gonna learn a few songs for the next one.
Excellent.
Yeah,
the other one for this.
I can't play an instrument, so somebody else has
I'll
to.
bring
Well, like
my
for
ukulele.
example, Weird Al, he only asked for permission from artists because just to try and maintain a good relationship with them,
Fair.
because his songs are generally pretty popular as far as
Well,
songs
and
go.
parodies too.
Parodies, yeah.
That's true. They're not the same.
So the difference between the 15 and the 21, aside from age and
Barely.
well, actually they have identical alcohol contents, is the barreling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got the sherry cask and then the 21 years traditional oak. So
For this one, don't they have a 21-year port finish as well?
they've done some barrel finishing. They're changing their portfolio a little bit. Like I think the 17-year-old double wood
Yeah.
is now gone.
Oh, really?
And they're mixing a few things up. The 21-year, I believe, is a newer release in this particular cask. So they may have moved it this year.
It might
They may
do
be
another
doing
year.
both. I haven't really heard, but then again, I didn't ask.
Fair.
So this was put in a cask when I was 5 years old. That's the cool thing about Scotch is you can just kind of like taste the history in it too, you know?
So it's like Mark running around in like his tiny shorts and riding bicycle.
Yeah.
Oh,
Watching
yeah.
wrestling and jumping
Watching
off the sport.
wrestling.
No, it was the Boomafoo. It was Dragon Tail. Shout out to the 90 kids. You know what I'm talking
Oh my
about.
god.
I don't know what any of that is. What is that?
Exactly.
Mark, that was
Oh,
me.
we
That
forgot
was
the
me.
telephone, guys.
It's okay. They'll call back.
All right. Tell me a little more about this while I go turn up on.
What about Zaboomafoo? I mean, we can talk about
Tell
Zaboomafoo.
me what is it?
It's about a lemur.
Oh, I don't care.
Two guys
Anyway,
hanging out.
moving on. Don't care about that at all.
I still haven't tasted this 21 year though.
It's great. So if you're a Highlands malt drinker, you probably know Balvenie. But if for some reason you don't, there are a million different reasons to drink it if you are willing to spend money on good Highlands whiskey. A lot of people are drinking Glenfiddich or Glenlivet or Macallan, and I love all of them. But I have a special love on for Balvenie. We don't get sponsorship for this. We just get to talk about what we like. If you want to sponsor us and send us your
Balvenie.
your whiskey, or specifically Balvenie, we'll talk about it more.
Can't you a deal?
Yeah. So this is just two newer examples to our portfolio on our back bar that we think are just outstanding.
They're killer.
And honestly, I would say my preference out of these two, the 21 and the 15, I really like this 15, the sherry cask.
Yeah.
It's a sexy dram, man.
So our rep, my friend Adil Yamin, he actually mentioned to me that the 15-year rather, is maybe his favorite release
Really?
from the member. Yeah.
I could see it.
I find 15 to be a kind of very sweet spot year for certain sweeter styles of liquor. So that's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is bad to talk about it right now because we haven't got it in yet. But
It's
when the
terrible.
Pappy comes in,
It's terrible. to
the
talk about
15 year is my
Who?
Who's that guy?
Paprika?
Yeah.
Paprika. When Pappy comes in, 15-year to me has always been the best of them.
Yeah.
No matter how old I get.
Glenfiddich's
to
got a really
25.
nice 15-year release.
Yeah.
The
Solera
Solera cask,
Yeah.
yeah. Highland Park's got a great 15-year.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've had that Highland Park 15.
It's good. It's a pretty big jump price-wise from the 12.
The Glen, we didn't bring it out here, but
That
the Glenmorangie
Glenmo, yeah.
15-year,
Mhm.
that's the.
Yeah.
those are really nice
Oh
ones.
yeah, that's brand new. We just got that.
Moving on up.
All right.
So now gonna travel off the Highlands and down to Campbellton,
Mhm.
which is a peninsula, kind of south. I'm gonna get this right, southeast of Islay, on the
Yeah.
southwest corner of
Oh,
Scotland.
Yeah.
I mentioned Islay because inevitably the Campbellton whiskeys and some of the other island whiskeys, they're always seen as a bridge between Highlands or Lowlands and Islay, and that's partially true in flavor, and I think it's partially just because of the literal geographic placement of them, because they are in the middle.
I was going to say too that like some of these whiskeys, they really show you a lot of terroir from the region, which we had mentioned in a previous episode is like arguable sometimes, right? To me, it's always true, but the influence of what's around it is so strong that the islands, Islay and Campbellton usually have at least like 50% similar characteristics, and that's coming from the water, the salinity, and the dryness of their climate.
Yeah, the literal air.
Because that's all going into that barley, you know.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Right.
At the end of the day is what
So I see it
you're
as well.
drinking.
Yeah.
You're drinking those.
And I think,
things.
I mean, even in a distilled spirit, I think to deny that completely and say it's absolutely not true doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, I know I can't prove it. I can't prove what people taste.
To me, even from a chemistry standpoint, it makes more
Yeah,
sense.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of things about this particular release from Glen Scotia, which is one of the more famous distilleries on Campbellton, and probably some of the only Campbellton that we can get in Michigan now that Springbank is unavailable.
That's right.
Springbank, you got to
Yeah.
come back, man. Your shit's
Forgot
awesome.
about
So Glen Scotia, non-chill filtered. Victoriana is the name of the release. We're at cask strength at 108 proof, and we have also been finished in deep charred oak.
that.
So you're seeing a cask similar to American whiskey aging. You're seeing cask strength, non-chill. It's a big, rich, heavy whiskey.
Yeah.
It's got a ton of character, but it's got a ton of mid-palate creaminess and sweetness. So I've seen Scotch drinkers really latch onto this, and I've seen the occasional bourbon drinker really get into it.
I've got in my notes that it was handpicked by Ian McAllister from Select Cask of their reserve cellar. So some of those older whiskeys have been popped in there too, with those more older traditional styles of distilling as well.
This is a NAS whiskey, non-aged statement whiskey, which I imagine will allow him to put it out at the same creative level, I think, every year. You know, allow him a little wiggle room on which one of those reserve casks he uses to accomplish this particular label each time.
Or just to marry those flavors together too. Yeah.
That's something that I did not know, is that this is supposedly what their whiskey tasted like during the Victorian era.
That's why it's called Victoria.
Yeah. In which Campbelltown was known as the Victorian whiskey capital of the world.
I think we mentioned that in the first Scottish region episode.
Did we? Oh yeah, how
Yeah, 'cause
once
we
upon
did
a
like
time it was
Yeah,
It
small
was
history.
so
of all
long
of them.
ago, probably about 13 episodes.
I've grown
Oh my
so
gosh.
much since then as a person.
I know you really have.
I have.
I know. I'm
already
really happy to see
Talking
it.
about Scotch in this episode.
I'm already
but I'm
journaling 17.3% more. And my
17.
quality journal entries are up 52%.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
I have them sent to the board, evaluated.
I didn't even know you knew that much math.
I'm going to put that in my journal right now.
Yeah, I did one of these on Jingle Fest, so my notes are oak and burnt sugar, citrus in the nose, then a ton of like jamminess, big palate, brightness, sherry. charred oak.
Jamminess is a
Dude,
good description.
And it's
I like
so
that.
rich right in the middle.
Yeah, that savory dark cocoa on the finish.
Yeah.
Like where it's almost like vegetable.
No wonder almost everybody I give, regardless of what they usually drink, tend to like this.
Yeah.
It's got so many great,
Super
sweet,
It's-
rich, and dessert.
It's all over the place, but not in a bad way.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, there's a ton that you already like palate-wise that you have in this whiskey to grab onto and to find attractive.
It's delicious.
I think you're in like the 80 or $90 range for a bottle, so it's not cheap.
That's not bad though for that
For what
whiskey.
it is.
For cask strength Campbellton single malt.
Yeah.
Yeah. barrel finished Campbellton single malt. It's super, super great.
I would say if you see it, buy it because that's
Yeah.
a phenomenal bottle.
Just because of where it's coming from and how out of left field it seemed when I first tasted it. This is a close finalist for my favorite whiskey of the year. And I've been having a ton of fun selling it to people.
Speaking of which, are we going to do whiskey of the year picks, you think? Should we do it?
Yeah, probably, because we have a big enough staff now to do it, and
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
likes whiskey. So I
Yeah.
think we'll have some really good picks, because it won't just be the three of us.
Right.
But we also have three invested salespeople on the floor.
Yeah.
All of our servers love whiskey.
Yeah, Chase,
too.
Brenna, and
Yeah.
Ryan. So I think we'll get 6 cool pictures and picks. Why not?
Right. Yeah, and shout outs to them because we, as bartenders behind the bar, get a lot of the glory, but those guys are awesome.
Thank
Guys
you
and gals
so-
are awesome.
thank you
Right.
so
Well, and it's not just glory because we make cocktails. That's
Right.
cool. But also, like, we're seen as the trusted people to talk about the
Right.
whiskey.
Yeah.
And well, really all you're doing is representing stuff that's already been made.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and pour it into a glass for you, and you're
Mhm.
going
I'm
to
just gonna
pay
tell
me
you a
and
little
tip
bit
me for
about
it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that level of being able to represent the whiskey is really important to on-premise sales. Obviously, that's not
Yeah.
super stupid understatement, but it is true. And I think perceived or actual expertise is really important now because there's so much whiskey on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you see servers really take that ball and run with it, and no, I mean, you don't need to walk up to the bar. I got you. Like, you're right here at
Yeah,
my table. I'm
don't
going to
be
talk to you about it.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm,
You don't have
I'm
to
psyched
cherry
about
pick
this
it,
too.
You
Yeah.
know, I'll tell you which ones
and
based on the flavor.
and if we don't know, we'll learn together.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a cool attitude. It's so fun to watch them do it.
That's the thing we mentioned it in the bar etiquette episode was how people will come up to the bar to talk to us about it, and a lot of times we'll send them back and say, listen, Brenna or Ryan or Chase know just as much, or if they don't, then trust them and we'll get to it together.
Yeah. But they're all super into it. Like every
They
second
really
they
are
have
into it,
free,
yeah.
they're studying or cleaning something, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we've been at this for 5 years, all of us in
So
this
this
bar.
is I love our staff interlude of this.
Oh,
I
yeah,
like it a
yeah.
lot.
We're just doing a little
Yay.
side note so I
You
can
guys are
finish
great.
off this whiskey while we get to move on to another.
Good filibuster.
Oh, you know.
Well done. Well, we have 3 left to do, and
Yeah.
we'll get to our big Petey boy now, because there's probably always going to be an Ardbeg on this show, or a very heavily peated whiskey anyway on this show. Ardbeg was a natural choice because they released the Scorch this year.
She's
Now,
fun, too.
there's 2 releases to this whiskey. All right, what I'm holding in my hand is the committee release, and that was 103.4 proof. The non-committee release was 92 proof. So the tasting notes will be similar, far more muted, and a little sweeter in the 92 proof.
Mhm.
At this point, late in 2021, there's a good chance you're going to have a hard time finding the committee release. Bear in mind, the 92 is great, but we're talking today about the 113.
Yeah.
And, a different whiskey.
And it should be noted too, Ardbeg generally does that with all their new releases. Is they'll have a committee release
double.
and then
Yeah.
the bigger
For
market,
market
release.
Right. And we will get both. The committee releases are usually bigger, richer, like stronger
More,
versions.
yeah.
Yeah. But having sampled them both, the 92 does a great job. And this is called Scorch because it has a similar barrel treatment to the last whiskey that we talked about. Heavy char.
Heavy
Mhm.
char.
And this one went over very popularly
Oh,
on
really?
our own Ardbeg Day.
Went over well when we did the Ardbeg tasting. It was one of the heavy hitters at Whiskey Fest. My
Yeah.
wife poured for Ardbeg, and she was pretty much just pouring drum and Scorch the whole entire time. And it's great
Hard to
because
find.
Ardbeg has always maintained an extremely creamy mid palate while giving you massive amounts of smoke. So you add to that the richness of the alcohol content and the massive barrel influence, and you've got a dram that's just powerful all the way through.
As much as I know people would argue with me for this statement, Ardbeg can be a dessert pour in and of itself to
Oh, yeah.
me because of that creamy palate, like you said, but a ton of robustness. It's just like someone who likes a dessert that's just like extreme.
Yep.
It's like super sour, super chocolatey, etc.
Yeah, this
This
was
is just
this
the smoke version of that with that creamy whiskey.
Yeah. This particular Ardbeg, I think, would pair well with any like heavy chocolate dessert.
With like a dark richness
Yeah,
to it. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with that.
Because it's got
Yeah.
kind of like a lean dark smoke to it that I think would kind of cut through the fat
sugar,
and richness
yeah.
you would get in a
Yeah.
dessert. Yeah.
Let's see that.
Nice note.
So out of all the really heavily peated stuff, this is probably my favorite this year that we tried. And don't get us wrong when we say like creamy and elegant dessert. If you're an Ardbeg fan, it's still going to pack every bit of the smoke and,
Right.
and
Oh, yeah.
peated punch that you wanted to pack.
And if you're looking for honey and fruit from your whiskey, you're getting it there, but you're still going to get that punch.
Yeah.
So, tread well when you're
Yeah.
going for it.
Cool
if you
product.
do.
Probably one of Ardbeg's most complete and well-balanced releases of the last 4 or 5 years, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's saying something because Ardbeg is always excellent.
Do you recall what last year's committee release was?
They had the Ardbeg last year,
Okay.
And Drum was the year before that, right?
and Black was in between.
Black.
Remember
and
the
then
Which
sheep
we
note?
didn't
Black.
get any of, unfortunately. It's like the one Ardbeg.
No, we got one bottle,
Oh, did we?
and it went super
Oh.
fast.
Well,
I think
Oh, I know I picked one up for home, so I've got one still on my shelf. The Pinot
we just
Noir.
tried it. That came out.
Is
during
that what it
COVID.
was?
It was really weird.
Pinot
Yeah,
Noir
Yes,
aged?
and
Yeah.
shipped from New Zealand, so it's
the sheep.
your sheep's
Yeah, I don't
Pinot.
think I ever tried that.
No, we
personally,
didn't get it. It came out at a weird time, and
Yeah.
I think it was maybe during like
After
COVID
Some of the
stuff.
shutdowns,
Yeah,
yeah.
and like we weren't even open to get it. I don't think.
Yeah.
So Ardbeg was the last one before that, and then Drum, and then the re-release of Supernova.
Yeah,
that happened.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what it was. Yeah.
Because they popped Supernova back out for the first time since 2015. So you've also seen the advancement of the Wee Beastie 5-year to the core line. So now you have Wee Beastie 10-year, Anno, Corvrek, and Ugadal. Those are the flagships, and then the core line rather that's going to be available year round, and then everything else will kind of hover around it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Courtney was talking about complexity in Ardbeg. Probably my favorite expression of that is that NO. Like
So
there's
good.
so much going on
good,
in that
yeah.
with different barrel aging styles. It's a very elegant but complex whiskey, I think.
That was a unanimous whiskey of the year that year when it
Yeah.
came out. Where the
Yep.
whole staff was
Yep.
just kind of
And
like,
like John
one
said, you
reason
can
I
still
like
find
Ugadal.
that because it's part of their core line now. So
Yeah.
and it's no more expensive really than the 10-year.
yeah. So
Oh,
if you
slightly,
if you
yeah.
see a bottle, I would highly recommend grabbing it off the
Yeah.
shelf. 'Cause-
It looks like
Okay.
NOA to the American purchaser. It's AN space OA.
Yeah.
I know.
NO.
Body of water, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and last but not least, this is the first two in a series of whiskeys that we're going to see more of. We just, at the time of this podcast, we only received 2 of them.
So far.
Yeah, and there's more coming. But Diageo is on a whole kick where they're gonna put out a new age statement version of one of their classic malts
Several.
at cask strength.
Mhm.
So we've received, and we're going to talk about today, the Cardew 14 and the Royal Lochnagar 16. We still await releases from Mortlock, Lagavulin, Talisker,
Talisker,
Oban,
yeah.
and I think that's it.
Just gives my reach here.
Yeah. So this is exciting because it is a few releases that you're really, really familiar with. Like if you're a single malt drinker, you know Oban, you know Lagavulin, you probably know Talisker. You should know Cardew even if you've never had it because Cardew is Johnny Walker Black Label. It's a big part of that blend, young
Yeah.
Cardew.
Mhm.
And then Royal Lochnagar, for a lot of people, that was maybe the first time they saw it in the Game of Thrones
Dun,
releases.
dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
Yeah. Yeah, it was the Baratheon whiskey, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so everybody was hot for that one. And then Morlock, we talked about it today, but a lot of people don't know it. So
It's actually pretty damn good.
yeah, this is cool. So you've got some like big core classic malt labels, and then you've got some of the other ones that are a little bit more obscure, but all of them cask strength, all of them age statement.
Yeah, so these are all also refill casks, exclusively refill casks for their 2021 special releases called Legends Untold. And it
Ooh.
usually it has a lot to do with some of the artwork that they have on these bottles, which is quite extravagant and beautiful. Which I'm going to try to
And actually, I think a side note about this, I'm pretty sure there's a Talisker release in the same series that is done by one of my favorite artists who does like video game art and like comic book art and stuff like that. So
his
kind
was
of a cool thing.
the sea dragon art, right?
Yeah, yep.
Right.
Yep.
So that's this. I think it's called the Spring Horse. I'm gonna double check that real quick. The Spring Stallion. So that's from the Royal Lochnagar. Their little legend is about the Spring Stallion. As the fable goes, Royal Deeside, where Lochnagar is nearby, was blanketed with thick and chilling fog until a proud stallion, white as snow, tore through the icy veil, therefore allowing the warmth of spring to come through. So you're getting, it's saying from here, you're going to get like a lot of sweet grass and beautiful flavors from that. But it's also got this little QR code on the back. And I just tried this earlier. You can actually pour yourself a dram and then have like the story about the stallion being
Yeah, that
out
was pretty
behind
cool,
it
yeah.
is pretty dang cool. I'm not gonna lie, that is awesome.
All right.
This is the future, man.
Yeah.
QR codes, they're the future.
of whiskey.
Then they-
Soon they'll drink it for you.
In Soviet Russia.
So these were-
you.
These are also done, just as a note, by master blender Craig Wilson from their massive stocks of whiskeys. And then these two already told you about the Game of Thrones release. The Cardew 14-year tells of the story of the Scarlet blossoms of Blackrock. Cardew actually is translated to Blackrock. So on the blackened rock hill grew a mysterious tree with scarlet blossoms, allowing sweet aroma of honeycomb and spice to be transforming this dark hill into a lush abundance of crimson petals. Ooh.
Except it wasn't that. It was the blood of the innocent. Everybody knows. Everybody's covering it up.
This is the first time
we
I've
did
ever
talk
seen.
about Helen Cumming like hiding from the whiskey tax collectors. Perhaps they spilled some blood as well.
This is the first time I've ever seen nutrition facts on a whiskey container. It's 140
Way
calories.
to go, Diageo. Inclusive.
140
Yeah.
calories for a 1.5 ounce pour. So that is
Yeah.
not even what did we do?
No,
Full 2 ounces?
we do a full
yeah.
ounce.
Yeah, yeah. So from the Lochnagar, which I think is the one you poured for yourself, right?
Yeah, yep.
I've got, it smells like croissants,
Croissant?
buttery pastry, toffee caramel, apricot, and then dried leaves, which is a weird note that I got out of that one. Dried papaya, green grapes, and spicy oak, plus treacle and cereal grain in the flavor, and then a nice zesty finish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could
I'd say
describe
that's
that
all
one.
spot on there, booms.
I was pretty toasty by the time I
You were
had
doing
that
good, though.
dram, and yet
You were doing good.
I was taking notes. I was
Mhm.
being serious.
It was extremely cold outside. Where were you going to go?
To the bar. Come to the bar.
At 115 proof, both of them, I believe, same proof.
They are the exact same,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So that's another thing that's kind of been more recent. We saw it with the Scotia. We saw it nearly at the alcohol content of the Scorch that we picked up. And these two, cask strength Scotch is a thing. It's out there. More of them are being released all the time.
Can I see that card?
We're seeing much bigger expressions
No, the bottle.
of these single malts. Shut up! I'm trying to talk.
I don't have to work today, so I'm having fun. Continue whatever it was you were saying.
Do you want a dehydrated apple for that?
Hi.
Oh, sure.
Ooh,
that
Yeah,
would
some
be-
of the
yeah.
flavors stirring around in there.
Give Booms a dehydrator. Everything becomes dehydrated.
It's all so dry,
But tasty.
but tasty.
Sorry to interrupt you.
You were saying
No, it's
cask
great.
strength
But cask strength Scotch is a thing, and
Yeah.
it didn't used to be.
And it's not nearly as like blowing you, to me, some of those cask strength bourbons and ryes kind of blow my mouth out, and then I have very
Sure.
little palate left.
Yeah.
Some of these are
Yeah, you're looking at a
so
lot
cheesy.
different alcohol content too with
Yeah.
some of these. Like with the bourbons, you're usually in the 120s. Elijah Craig just released a cask strength that is being called slight or weak at a 120 proof because they're used to releasing stuff in the high 120s or 130s. These aren't that. These are going to be under 120, all of them.
Yeah, but still you get that nice warming sensation.
This
Mhm.
Cardew is nothing but butterscotch and just
It's really good.
yeah.
The dram I had last week I thought was fantastic, and
Fruitcake.
it's just cool to see some of these labels do new releases or new age statements or age statements at all, and
Yeah.
cask strength versions of them. I'll take.
I love it so
Yeah.
much.
I think for
a good play by
a
Diageo.
bourbon, like a person who has a bourbon drinking palate, that's why they kind of may have stayed away from Scotch, just because it's lower proof and it's a different grain, so it's kind of like strange to their palate.
right,
Now
but
that
these releases,
they're kicking them up to cask strength, maybe it can be a kind of a bridge for those heavy
Yeah.
bourbon drinkers.
You've certainly got enough
100%.
flavor that they would like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Flavor that you can grab onto. You still got to get around the fact that these are not in newly charred barrels. They're not made from corn. They're barley. It's a different kind of whiskey, but I think there's more to meet those people in the middle with some of these than there ever has been.
I was reminded by a post from Brad Bowers, shout out Brad Bowers, on Facebook about how if you're a bourbon drinker and you don't necessarily prefer the maltiness of Scotch, give it a little charcuterie, some cheese and meat, some of the fat helps
Yeah.
blend that down so you get more of the sweeter flavors of this too. So if that's not your game, but you still want to try some, maybe add on the meat and cheese.
And everything that you drink changes with what you eat.
100%. That's
what
why
you
I was
drink
asking
changes
about
what
the
you eat.
coffee earlier too. Like, am I tasting the cocoa because of the coffee, or am I actually tasting cocoa?
Yeah.
I had a dream about Marcona almonds the other night, guys.
'Cause you ate a bunch of them the other day.
Yeah, I did.
You
They're
ate
so
like
good.
handfuls
If you've
upon
never had a
handfuls.
Marcona almond, let me tell you, whoo,
You ate like a whole bowl of Marcona almonds when we were doing that.
They're
event on
so
Sunday.
good.
Yeah.
That's like $7.
I rolled it into his labor. It was fine.
There you go.
Damn it.
Yep. So anything else you want to say about Scotch from this year? It was a good year for Scotch. For us, it was a good year for Highlands single malts and
Yeah.
maltier drams, which is cool.
I mean, the only bottles we kind of left out of this as far as like new releases this year, I do want to mention that Glenmoe 15, the Glenmorangie 15. I think that